Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sweet Old Bills. We've got the HPU Coaches Show. A lot of great stuff going on throughout the university, athletically and otherwise. We're going to start things off with women's basketball. Head coach Chelsea Banbury. Coach, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great. And we have to start with some congratulations and maybe another round of applause. Your team is 9-1. You're the first team in Big South women's basketball in 10 years to start off with that record.
Yeah, no, the girls are playing great. They're doing a good job.
What has gone on in that start, and what's gone into this 9-1 start? You've played tough competition too. I think makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've definitely had some good leadership from returners like Nevaeh and Anna and Aaliyah, and you know, Dom's been contributing a lot, especially once Lexi went down. But you know, we were able to add some pieces that have come in. They've made an impact immediately, and the girls are playing really well together. There's a lot of chemistry on the floor. You can see it off the court. I think that kind of feeds into how well they've been playing on the floor. But you know, they're playing well together. They're having fun playing together, and you know, they deserve all the credit.
What's gone into overcoming some of the adversity like you touched on? Is it kind of just that next player up, or what goes into that in your mind?
It is the next player up, and you know, Lexi's still a voice for us. She's still at practice, and she's still coaching players through things. You'll hear her on the bench. She's in their ear, and she was a big part of that on the floor. She was definitely probably our loudest voice on the floor, and she's continuing to do that. You know, I had that conversation with her. I said, you know, just because you're out doesn't mean you're not going to impact this team, and I want you in the middle of the bench, and you know, they still respect you and they still listen to you. So she's been great about that and staying on them, and you know, they're playing really well, and like I said, the chemistry is 100% why we're at where we are.
And I was thinking the same thing about Lexi Fleming. She's a captain on the team, and that's what you'd like to see from a captain, someone who's still engaged and making a big difference.
Oh, 100%, and she's definitely been that, and you know, she's had a great attitude about it. This is her third time tearing her ACL, so it would be easy to want to stop and do all that, but you know, she's been great. She's accepted it. She's ready for her next challenge, but she's still been there for her teammates too.
A couple of players on the floor that have been exceptional. We've talked about Aaliyah Collins in the past. It seems like we're running out of superlatives for what she's doing on the floor, offensively and defensively. She's been so good.
Yeah, I mean, Aaliyah is a big part of what we do, especially defensively. She kind of sets the tone, and that's turned into probably our highest percentage offense. And then, you know, she's just, every game she's proven to be hard to stay in front of. Every team has a hard time guarding her, or they'll put three people on her, and, you know, it kind of opens up things for other players. So she's really, you know, been a big part of what we've been able to do, and you know, she's starting to knock down shots too, which helps her confidence, and when she has confidence, I'll put her up against anybody.
When they put three players on Collins, it opens up someone like Macy Spencer.
Yeah.
She can get open. I mean, she's dropping points left and right. She's had several games of 20 or more. I mean, she is a complete player for you guys.
She is, yeah. Macy can score at all three levels. She's actually one of our better passers, too, out of screen and rolls and out of handoffs. You know, she's found Vay a lot of times when Vay's at the basket, but, you know, she's just shot the ball extremely well. She understands where her shots should come from, and really understanding our offense and how she can put herself in situations to be successful. But she's been phenomenal. You know, she scored a lot when we were in New Orleans, but she also had 10 rebounds in that second game, and I was more happy and more impressed with the 10 rebounds. You know, we said that was what the game was going to be, and she bought into that, and she got in there, and, you know, a guard getting 10 rebounds is pretty good.
And that's a buy-in that not everybody has. I mean, a double-double against Louisiana, like you mentioned, and that again goes back to kind of that chemistry aspect, right?
100%, yeah. You know, it was, this is what we need to do to win, and either we do it or we don't. If you don't, we probably lose, and, you know, she went in there and she busted her butt.
You touched on Nevaeh Zavala a little bit. The counting numbers may not be what they were in the past, but her impact is still as great as ever on the floor.
100%. You know, she had a big game against Virginia Wise when we were here, and, you know, we had that conversation, and I expect her to be a lot more involved in our offense. You know, she is a little bit underappreciated in the fact that she's one of our best screeners, and she's the one getting into actions and getting her teammates into actions where they can be successful. But on the flip side, we need to do the same thing for her. We've been focusing on that a lot. Posts don't like getting through screens. and we hardly set any screens for her. So, you know, we've been emphasizing that. We want her to be able to score at the basket. Things will open up from there, but, you know, she's definitely still having a big impact. She's a voice on the floor for us, but I do expect her to come into her own and find her opportunities.
You talked about the buy-in and the chemistry again. She was preseason player of the year in the conference, and I think, you know, you go to other programs, maybe the preseason player of the year isn't willing to take that type of a role cut, so to speak, but she's gone in and winning's been at the focal point.
Yeah, 100%. You know, our girls, they want to be a part of a good team. They want to be a part of a championship team, and they buy into that, whatever that role is. And, you know, I honestly believe that we have 5 or 6 players that can average 15 points, and I'm fine with that. Yeah. You know, and, you know, there's enough shots, and if we share the ball and we're working for great shots, I think we can shoot them at a high percentage. So, you know, she's finding opportunities for her teammates, and I expect that to start happening for her as well, because she's very efficient in there. When she gets the ball close to the basket, she's shooting at like 65%, so that's a pretty good shot for us.
Yeah, unquestionably. And another one of those impact players is Shauna Pashish, and she may not be the leading scorer. She may be able to average 15 points, like you said.
She could.
She's one of those leading rebounders. She just brings so much energy every time she's on the floor.
She does. She puts a lot of life into us, honestly. And, you know, I love players like that coming off the bench. I think you have a really good team that when you go to the bench, nothing falls off at all. And, you know, I think when we go to our bench, I don't think anything falls off, and I think that's why we found ourselves in the situation that we're in right now. You know, she comes in, she's going to give us energy, she's going to make plays on defense, and she's going to get us second chance points and offensive rebounds on that side of the floor. So, you know, coming in and making a positive impact has definitely contributed to our success so far.
The Big South did a terrific piece on her as well, the Big South Conference, on her journey from Mozambique all the way to High Point University and what she brings. I mean, it's another one of those things where that kind of goes, it's swept under the rug at a lot of places, but that's not easy to do, to kind of assimilate and become a part of a team, and it's seamless with her.
It is, and, you know, I speak on this a lot, that Shauna is really a special person. Just her attitude towards life, her attitudes towards basketball, just how thankful and grateful she is for everything. And, you know, I think that makes a big impact on the team too. She's gone through and seen a lot of things that people on our team will never see in their life or have to work through. So, you know, she hasn't seen her mom in 7 years, you know, and she's still a kid, and, you know, I can't imagine going through that. So the fact that she's been able to do what she does and still have a positive outlook, and you know, she has goals of what she wants in her life, and you know, she's here, she stays positive, and you know, she puts that into her teammates.
And then that goes in again to the chemistry, and what separates this group kind of from other groups? Not that other groups haven't had good chemistry, but what separates this group and why they've been so close-knit? What makes them so tight? I
don't know. I think they actually get along.
That's a good start.
As bizarre as that is, right? No, they genuinely do. You know, when we were down in New Orleans, we had Thanksgiving meal. The majority of them, probably 13, 14 of them, stayed in the room and played, I don't even know, some Mafia game. I don't know what it was. But it was well over an hour and a half just laughing and playing this game and enjoying each other's company. When, you know, nowadays it's very easy to go and isolate yourself and be on your phone and scroll on TikTok. Oh, I got a show I'm watching on Netflix, doing whatever you want to do. But they spent that time together. So, you know, I think that is special, and you can see that they genuinely love each other. They like being around each other, and I think it is translating to good things on the floor.
Well, that's really cool. That's really cool when you guys have played such a tough non-conference schedule, and that'll benefit you guys coming into conference play, which is really right around the corner. It's going to be exciting to see how that kind of all unfolds with that tough non-conference. I mean, that'll bode you well moving forward.
I think so. Our conference is actually doing really well in the non-conference. You know, Longwood's had some really big wins, you know, competing up against some of the best mid-majors. Radford beat Navy last week, which they're one of their, I think, top 25 mid-majors. So our conference is doing much better. That's exciting. I expect great competition, but, you know, I agree. I think we've played a pretty tough non-con schedule, and we'll be ready for what they have.
North Carolina Central, though, is on the docket for you next. And NCCU, win-loss, it doesn't look so impressive, but they've been really close in a lot of games.
They compete, 100%. Yep, they're going to show up. They're athletic. They have some good players. And I do believe that they're better than they have been in the past. So, we got to show up. We got to execute at a high level, and we have to be intense and intentional with what we do.
And then you've got Davidson after that. And last year, Davidson, I believe, was the opener for the season last year.
Yep.
Yeah, ended up winning that game in a back-and-forth affair. You figure Davidson's going to be hungry, looking for revenge. That'll be another really hotly contested contest.
It will be, and they're very good. They are very good this year. Their last game, they hit 17 threes at 61% shooting. So it'll be a battle. Way. Yeah. Again, we'll have to be disciplined, and we'll have to execute at a high level.
Any questions for Coach?
We are. That was set up. Actually, my neighbor is a teacher down there, and they've been involved with Get Excited about our games. And we tried to set something up last year. At the end of the year, it didn't work out with our finals, so we were able to organize something over Christmas break before our girls go home. They can go, and they're going to be reading to some classes, so that'll be fun. Oh, awesome. Oh, awesome. Okay, yeah. Bring everybody. Let's go.
Any other questions for Coach?
I would say maybe for individual players it might be a hindrance because they end up putting that pressure on themselves. As for the team, I don't look at it at all, especially in the era of the transfer portal and all that. So many teams have new teams essentially every single year. We have a lot of new players. And so, what happened last year doesn't matter. What they vote the preseason doesn't matter. What we're doing this season is all that matters, and what we earn is all that matters. So that's kind of been our focus. And we have our individual goals regardless of where the other coaches in the conference put us. We have our expectations and our standards, and that's what we focus on. Yeah.
Any other questions for Coach? All right, Coach, congratulations again on the 9-1 start and all the sets this year. We'll keep the show rolling. Men's lacrosse, John Crawley.
Check. All right, we got it.
All right, Coach. Coming off a solid year last year, appearance in the A10 title game. What's kind of the off-season prep been looking like for you guys?
Yeah, I think that there are some things that we certainly want to bring over from last year, but I think the most important thing for our team to understand is that it is a completely new year, and it's a completely new team. We're going to be playing, a really tough out-of-conference schedule. Our conference continues to get tougher, with Delaware joining. So, there's definitely some things that we want to carry over from last year and continue with some of the momentum that we built towards the end of the year. But I think that the most important thing this fall was having our guys understand that this is a new year, and every season's a completely different process, and there's a lot that goes into that. And understanding that while there were some good results towards the end of the year, that we certainly fell short of our goals. Our goals are not to come in second. That's not in our DNA. But to understand that there are some things that we can learn from last year that we did well, but also understand that this is a completely new slate, and we got to build from the ground up, starting in this fall.
Unquestionably. And it's getting to be toward that first scrimmage of the year. You got Lenore, Ryan, and Duke coming up in the exhibitions. It's got to feel like you guys are chomping at the bit. I know it's still a month away, but they got to be ready to get out there and play against another team.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the fall is a challenge because we only get to play really 13 regular season games in our year, but we go pretty hard throughout the entire year. And I was really proud of the way that our seniors and specifically our captains started to lead this team this fall and really stay focused on the process. Again, because we only have 13 games throughout a year, we can't get too tied up with just the outcomes of those games. We need to understand that we need to win each day and approach each day like it is a competition. And I think that our guys did that throughout this fall. We did have 2 exhibitions this fall against Towson and Duke. And some of the progress that we watched from then even until now has been really fun to watch and fun to go through with these guys.
When you guys play in these exhibitions, what's the balance between obviously wanting to put your guys out there, the starters, everybody, and work on things, but also experimenting with a couple of things, trying something different that you may not actually try in the regular season?
Sure. I think that there's certainly an intentionality around how we periodize the entire year. By the time that we get into our first game on January 31st against Navy, that'll be the first time that we're really putting our guys in a position where they're playing all 4 quarters. We try to, our first day of practice is January 7th, and our first scrimmage is January 17th, so it's only a 10-day.
Moving quick.
It moves quick. So, we understand that our guys are going to be in shape, but not completely in lacrosse shape just yet. The way that we kind of periodize our scrimmages is, we'll play, 2.5 quarters with our maybe top 4 attackmen and top 3 midfield lines, and then we'll slowly start to build those guys up because the goal is for them to not be in perfect shape in February, but to kind of look at it as a growing process throughout the year. So that way we're the most fresh, healthy, and excited version of ourselves come our playoffs and our conference play. So, again, I say it to our team pretty much every day. It's a process, and they have to understand that there are different points along the process that we're going to send them all the way in on, and certain times where we're going to hold them back.
What does that physical kind of preparation look like you mentioned? I mean, having that being in perfect conditioning toward the end of the season, I think that's a really great point. A lot of people would say, hey, you start the season, you want to be 10 out of 10. But if you can get that 10 out of 10 still toward the end, I think that's a big advantage. What does that prep look like?
Yeah, I mean, the day in, day out of practices are tough. So if you come in at your perfect condition right away in January 31st, from what I've seen, is teams start to kind of grind themselves out towards the end of the year. And then you get to March, April, and all of a sudden, small soft tissue injuries start to come up, et cetera. So we try to be smart about that. We certainly want to be in shape.
Of course.
There's no doubt about that. But the most important thing to me is to be fast and physical. And it's really hard to be fast and physical from January all the way through April. So we try to make sure that our guys aren't coming in because the reality of lacrosse is it's certainly an endurance game, but the way that it's kind of shifted is the best teams are the fastest and most physical ones. So for us to get the most out of our season, I think it's always important to kind of play ourselves into shape as the year goes on, play a lot more people early on in the year to get some people some more experience and really give people the opportunity to go out on game day and earn more opportunity. So it is it's certainly a grueling process. We throughout this entire 15-week fall, I mean, we lifted 4 days a week. Explicitly. When we get into the spring, that gets a little closer to 2.5 lifts a week. So it's certainly a long year, but it's important to be healthy. It's important to be fast, and it's important to be physical all throughout.
Justin Wickstead led the A10 in assists last year. What are your expectations for him as an integral part of the program?
Yeah, well, Wicks was a joy to coach last year. You know, he was a guy, his freshman year, the year before I got here, was a midfielder. And then last year as a sophomore, goes down to the attack. And I always consider him as kind of our point guard, our quarterback, so to speak. You know, as a sophomore, he had a huge leap in responsibility on the game field. And I think that he took his lumps at certain points in time. You know, he consistently had the top cover guy from the other team covering him, and I think that put him in some spots where he was against some really high-level competition. So, you know, I think that the thing about him is it's not all about him. He is very much a point guard and gets everybody involved. And you know, I think what's been really cool to watch is not only him, but the development of the two other attackmen who play alongside of him, and Owen Button and Carson Robbins. You know, those three guys were two rookies and a sophomore last year, and started to put together a really good, you know, obviously their production and execution, but really more than anything their chemistry. And then, you know, when we got back this fall, it was like it didn't skip a beat. I mean, those three guys were slinging the ball around the field, and it was exciting to watch. And when you have a point guard who's really selfless, I think that you can more often than not create an offense that's really selfless. And I think Justin, you know, he grew into that last year, and then coming into this year, he's certainly taken steps forward with that. But it's never just about him, which I think is what makes him most unique. Is you know, his unit between him, Owen Button, and Carson Robbins, you know, play really well together. They depend on each other, and it's never about just one guy.
And he touched on Owen a little bit. What's the expectations for him? What's the next step, as he had a terrific year last year?
He did. I mean, you know, breaking the rookie scoring record here at High Point is no small feat. I mean, the other guys who were in those, you know, record books between Asher Nolting and Braden Maea, two guys who have gone on to play professional lacrosse. I mean, you know, you can look at that record and be like, okay, well, maybe that means Owen will be that one day.
Very well.
Now, you know, he has to be where his feet are, and I think that what we watched Owen do and take a big step on this fall is his ability to communicate and kind of quarterback our offense off the ball. So, you know, lacrosse is somewhat unique. We play an offense where we really want to put guys in positions to be creative, to move both with and without the ball with purpose and fluidity. And I think that Owen took a huge step in his ability to kind of conduct others when he was off the ball. And this past fall, he took a huge leap in his shooting percentage, and more than anything, his shot selection. And I think that, you know, he's just a kid who's just going to keep getting better. I mean, he loves the game, loves lacrosse, loves competing, and you know, he had some really bright moments last year, you know, in a rookie campaign. And I think that a lot of his, you know, freshman year blunders and mistakes at certain points in time throughout the year, I think he's learned from all of those. So you know, I'm just going to continue to watch him and his line mates all, you know, take steps in the right direction together.
Unquestionably. Any questions for Coach? Really tough schedule was the question. How do you handle that?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I try to challenge our guys as best as I possibly can. You know, we have a really tough conference schedule, right? Between, you know, Richmond, St. Joe's, Delaware, you know, Hobart, UMass, I mean, St. Bonaventure. You know, we play a tough conference schedule. So in order to be prepared for that and for those games, we need to be challenged in our out-of-conference. You know, so to square up with Ohio State, Virginia, Carolina, Navy, you know, those are going to be some tough matchups. But what's most important for our guys to understand is kind of like how we started, is you know, we should be competing on that game day against Carolina the same way we were this fall on a Tuesday morning. And, you know, the emphasis has been so heavily put on winning today, and everybody to understand that, you know, the outcomes are just going to be the residual of our ability to stay focused on the process. And I think that our guys are really bought into that, I think, right now. And I think that they understand that, you know, today's training session, when we're not even all able to be together, is just as important as that game against Ohio State at Ohio State. So, you know, the way that we approach it is the same way we approach each day. Try not to get too high or too low, dependent on the results. We just want to stay focused on the process and continue to get better as we go.
Any other questions for Coach? All right, Coach, season will be here before you know it. Thank you for the time.
Thanks. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Women's rowing coming out with Jessica Dietrich.
Testing? Yeah.
So, Coach, you've completed the fall season. How do you feel like, what are the takeaways from that fall season? It felt like it was a very positive finish. What were the thoughts in your mind?
Yeah, so fall season's really all about the training for us, and it was definitely a good season. We started it down in Jacksonville, and we got to race a top 15 in the country there. We raced UCF there, and we actually beat them. So that was a really good finish for us. That built some momentum that we needed, and that took us to the head of the Occoquan, which was our last fall race. We did really well there. We finished first and second in just about every event that we were in, beat some programs that we were hoping to beat, and it's just, again, building that momentum into the spring. Spring is the championship season, so just using that fall for training purposes and getting race ready.
What does that off-season training regimen look like? I mean, that's going to be something that's going to be tough. Yeah. It's not going to be easy. Yeah. What does that regimen look like as you try and balance the two?
Yeah, so all fall and winter we practice twice a day every day. Saturdays it's just one a day. Sometimes it's 2 big cardios in a day. Sometimes it's a cross-training and a cardio. But it's a lot of meters, and the more meters that we can put on right now, the better off that we're going to be come spring for that 1 7-minute race that we do.
I have to ask, what is the number of meters? Because now, just out of sheer curiosity, that it's either in a workout or even throughout the week, because I'm sure it's just going to blow some minds.
Yeah, they do anywhere from 20 to 30,000 meters in a day.
Okay.
So you add that up throughout 6 days a week. It's a lot of meters.
That's twice a day too, is it?
Yeah,
oh my!
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no mathematician, but that's over 100,000 meters every single week. Oof.
All for a 2,000-meter race.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, you can't say you're not working hard. That much we know for sure.
No, we're definitely putting in the time and the effort to get ourselves there. Weight room, cross training. Every Friday this fall, we ran the stairs out at Cottrell on campus, and the girls had a good time doing that. So, doing a lot of different types of training.
Well, when it comes to the coaching aspect of things, how do you mix and match different people? I mean, it's not an easy thing to say, hey, I mean, obviously there's the talent aspect. You have ideas going in, but how do you perfect kind of that system?
Yeah, rowing is unique. We need 8 people to mesh together to make the boat go fast. And it's a lot of different seat racing that we'll do. Once I find the right 8 people, it's then a puzzle for me to put them in the correct order. Each seat does a different job in the boat. So we do a lot of seat racing, playing around with it, and then once we find those 8 people, I can then play with the boat itself. And it's a little bit of physics and rigging the boat certain ways to make it match, because I'll have women who are 6 feet tall and women who are 5'3", and I got to put them in the same boat and make them move together. So I just got to play with the rig to make it fit each person. So it's some playing on the coach's side, but then just making sure your athletes move together and do everything they need to.
How does your prior experience factor into that? How have some of those experiences shaped those decisions that go into it?
Yeah, I think each experience, I was at the Naval Academy for 3 years there, and then Colgate, and working with the other coaches and learning from them and what they did, and even the bigger programs have what we call boatmen, and the boatmen, they're the rigger. They kind of help set the boats, fix the boats, do all of that. You can learn a lot from them. They've been around for quite some time, and Coach Alsop was probably my favorite person to work with and showed me all the different intricacies of each boat and how I can make those boats fit my athletes. So you learn a lot over the time through different people, and those mentors have meant a lot to me. Yeah.
And then I'm sure you're passing some of that knowledge onto the women on your team as well. I mean, that's something that a good coach does, and I'm sure you're trying to instill wisdom that way for that 2,000-meter race. They know what to expect.
Yeah, definitely. And they're every day what we put into the practice, they're taking into race day with them. Yeah.
What does the top boat in your mind look like right now? I know that's a ways off, and I know that's a hard question, but in your mind, how is it shaping up for you so far?
Yeah, no, the top boat is looking really good. I think it's down to about 12 women right now, and I got to figure out who those 8 are. And a lot will depend on winter break and what they do over winter break and where they come back. They have the goals, they have the training plan, they know what they need to do, so it's on them to see what they're going to do now over these next 3.5, 4 weeks on their own. Hopefully they follow through and do it all, but in rowing too, it's not just my top boat that wins. I need all 3 boats. So we race a top 8, a second 8, and a 4, and they all earn points at conference championships. So I need 23 women to do what we need to do, and we have a roster of 40 right now, so we're doing well.
And that's not easy, I'm sure, to try and bring that out. I mean, 23 is a lot of athletes you need. Basketball, you need 5 on the court at a time with a bench. 23, I mean, you really have to instill your message and your morals into the team, and that's not always easy to do.
No, and it takes the whole team, and after those top 23, the bottom part of the team helps push that top part of the team. So everyone needs to be on the same page, striving for the same goals. And we have a great team culture. They're a family, they're gritty, they get after it, and they have a lot of fun together. And so we always say we're only as fast as our slowest person. So we need our slowest person to be someone else's fastest. And that's definitely what we do, and we push for that.
What has Caitlin Enright brought to your program, and how impressive has she been?
Caitlin Enright is great. She was my first recruit that came here. She came before we had a team. She's a Buffalo kid, and it was a good move for her. She brings a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. She's gritty. She gets after it. She works really, really hard. She's not my fastest, but she is definitely the attitude that I need, and she works really hard.
How contagious is that energy when you're out there on race day?
Very much. You can feel it. You can feel it in your boat. You can feel the people behind you. You can feel the women in front of you, and you got to build off each other. You don't talk to each other when you row. You just follow. You just go. The only person who's talking is your coxswain, and they're the one yelling at you, telling you what to do. But again, you can feel that energy come from the person in front of you, how hard they're pushing, how hard they're going. But this team, they do once in a while, they do talk to each other. They kind of chirp. We call it chirping, and it's a lot of positive chirping. They'll be in the middle of peace, and you'll just hear a "Yeah, Bo, let's go!" And they just are trying to motivate each other through it, and they have a good time doing it. But that energy can spread like wildfire, just like negative energy can spread too. So we don't want that. But that positiveness, it's big. Can turn someone around. Yeah.
Any questions for Coach?
Yeah, no, they are. You got to go through those crazy winters up there. I mean, I worked at Colgate. It's not far from there, yeah. Ooh. I have quite a few Buffalo kids. The New Yorkers, they like to come south, so, yeah.
Yeah, this winter is not fun, but it's even less fun in Buffalo. Yeah. That much we know for sure. Yeah. Well, Coach, congratulations on the fall season, completing that. Best of luck with the next upcoming season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next up, men's basketball with Flynn Clayman. Coach, 8-2 to start so far. It's been a really solid start for you guys. You're taking care of business in almost every game. How do you feel like things have started out for you guys?
Proud of being 8-2. Feel like we could be undefeated, but every coach kind of thinks that. When you look back at the film, those teams did a lot to beat us. I'm proud of where we are when you consider everything we lost. Yes, we brought in a lot of talented players, but we lost more than any team in Big South history. We lost over half of the first team all-conference team. Over half of that team was on our team last year. And then we're not even mentioning the sixth man of the year, the MVP of the conference tournament. So to get a whole group of new guys, albeit very talented guys, to gel together and have a good start to the season it's great.
And I think it also bears repeating that some of those guys that went elsewhere, for whatever reason, they've been impact players at those other places as well. And I mean, that speaks to kind of how good they were last year. And it is going to take time for these guys to gel and to continue to be that cohesive unit. That's not an overnight process.
Yeah, I mean, part of our program is development, and the numbers show that you come in one player, if we're talking transfers with specific analytics and data, and then you leave here a completely different player. So some of those guys who've gone on to other places are having good impacts, and we're proud of the development that they had while they were here in our program.
I think going into this season, and rightfully so, the offense gained a lot of the headlines. But when I've seen the games, I think the defense has been so impressive. You're leading the country in steals per game as of yesterday, and the defense has been so good, even though I think the offense was what High Point was probably known for going in. You have to be pleased with how the defense is by and large played.
I would say I was pleased with how we started the season defensively. I'm not pleased with where we are right now, if I'm being completely honest.
Okay.
You know, forcing turnovers has been a big positive, but we have some real slippage these last few games defensively that we're addressing over this break. But you did point out some great positives, like comparatively speaking to where we were last year at this time, we were in the 300s nationally defensive rating, and this year we're in the mid 100s. You know, so that's an improvement. But we started the season so well that we got to find our mojo back on that end.
What does it kind of look like trying to go into practice and iron out those things, you know, more or less? What's kind of the defensive plan been in practice to try and say, hey, let's get back to those first couple games? What have you been preaching to the guys?
I mean, if you really look at our lapses defensively, for example, we can take the Southern Illinois game. We could take the UAB game. The reality is some of it just came down to effort stuff that we need to improve and hold guys accountable for. Closing out on shots, making our certain rotations work. Because, you know, in those games when we executed what we wanted to do, it was pretty good. And when we didn't, it wasn't so good. So that's the battle of being a coach, is keeping these guys locked in on those details. And it's hard when you have success to continue to keep young people focused on those details. But they're doing a good job this week in practice of it.
And that can be at least a good part, is having that depth again. You know, if you say, hey, maybe this matchup isn't working so well, maybe we need a little more effort from this player, you can go to the bench. And you've seen that with Josh. He's been playing a lot more minutes. You know, you can go into that rotation and find someone who you can mix and match.
Definite advantage. You know, if you have nobody on that bench that can play, then you could be in a bad spot as a coach with trying to hold people accountable. So we know we've got great players off the bench who can come in and help us win ball games, and they're doing that.
One of the multi-time Big South Player of the Week is Cam Fletcher. I know he gets a lot of the headlines. We can start with him. He's continued to blossom. He's fully healthy, like you've said before, like we've talked about. How has he continued to evolve and impact the game plan? Because it seems like every time he gets the ball, he has the chance to score, and he can score.
Yeah, Cam is a stat stuffer. He's a walking double-double. You know, he's continued to work on his jump shot. Last game, unfortunately, he didn't have a good shooting night, but he is a good shooter. He's just an all-around talented player that's going to continue to highly impact the game. And then I'm just challenging him to impact it more on the defensive end. He's our best rebounder by far. He's obviously our leading scorer. We need him to give a little more, and he wants to step up and take that challenge to be a guy that is labeled as a defensive stopper.
I think the word is out on Fletcher as well. He has to be on the opposition scouting report, maybe top of the scouting report as well. How has that kind of impacted him? You know, now that he's number one, at prior stops, he was always going to be a talented player, but he had a lot of other guys around him that maybe he wasn't the number one. But now he's getting the leading score. He's leading scorer, leading rebounder. How is he kind of dealing with being the number one?
I think he's handling it well, and that's a really good point that many people probably don't think about. You know, he was kind of just a role player afterthought, and what you just said is something that I've specifically told him multiple times, is you have to go even harder in the weight room. You have to go even harder on your injury prevention, because you're going to be getting more physicality from other teams. You have to go even harder on memorizing what you need to know on the scouting report, because there's just smaller windows of success when the other team is game planning to stop you. You're not just completely playing off other people. So he is again, that's a challenge for somebody who hasn't experienced that, but I think he's handling it pretty well, and he's continuing to get better throughout the year at it.
Cam seems like a personality as well. I mean, we talked about it on our broadcast. It seems like he's got a great friendship with a lot of different guys. He's really tight with Rob Martin as well. He seems like he's fitting in seamlessly when it comes to team chemistry.
Yeah, he's a great guy. All our guys are great guys. I mean, we have great guys in that locker room. We've had no off-the-court issues, knock on wood. You know, every day is a new day, but really just a picture-perfect team in terms of being good guys who support each other. I couldn't ask for any more from that, and Cam is right there leading that. You know, great smile, loves his teammates love him. Great group to coach.
And when it comes to Rob Martin, he's another guy, especially in your last contest against NJIT. Highlanders, they made it a bit of a ball game in the second half, but it felt like Martin kind of said, okay, I'm taking the offensive load. I'm going to shoulder that. He got to the hoop, it felt like 3-4 straight possessions, and he kind of pushed that one out of reach.
Yeah, so our biggest thing with Rob and all our players is efficiency and reading the defense, and he did a great job of that last game. He had only, I think, 4 points at halftime, maybe, or just one, but the defense was keying on him, and he was finding our shooters. In the second half, they were staying home, and he had open lanes to the basket a little closer to like what Furman was doing to him. So he is much more efficient than he was last season. He was a good player last season. He was at about a 111 offensive rating. He's at about a 120 now, and that's one of the smallest jumps on our team. I mean, most of our guys are up 20, 25, 30 points from what they were. But him focusing on being more efficient, just reading the defense, and then priding himself on the defensive end has been a key for us.
And that's not easy for a high-usage type of player to make that type of efficiency jump. I mean, you really have to iron out some things, and I think that speaks to the work that he's put in and the coaching that you guys have done.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the numbers matter to us, because if those numbers are right, then you do have a good offense. And then defensively, he's also top 100 in the country in steal percentage. So he's exactly what I had hoped he'd been, and Conrad is also the same, where they are very good offensive players, but they bother the ball defensively. The last 2 years, really the only guy that we had that bothered the other team's point guard was Bobby. That was the only guy who could really get up in them and kind of take them out of what they wanted to do. So to have two guards who are able to do that and willing to do that is huge.
Two willing passers as well with Martinez and Martin. I mean, both of them averaging over 3 assists a game. I think Martin's pretty close to 5. I mean, that's huge for opening things up on offense. And then again, on the defensive end, they're like a gnat. You know, they're everywhere. You can't get rid of them, and they're just so good on both ends.
Yeah, I mean, I said before the year, you know, when we asked about what I was looking for and what were some attributes in the portal, like a willingness to pass the ball was something that at times we struggled with the last couple of years. You know, not everybody, but at times we weren't making the simple pass to the open man. So those two guys stood out as guards who were proven in that area, and then really all the rest of our players, even if they're not high usage players in terms of being in ball screens and making a ton of passes, they're always willing to make the one more pass, the simple pass. Just playing the game the right way instead of playing it for themselves was something that we really tried to get when we went in the portal, and I think we've done a pretty good job of it.
And it feels like for Martinez, there's times where he's always a pass-first type of player. Do you think he needs to work on maybe just putting it on the floor a little more, taking it to the hole? He's so good at shooting free throws. Is that something you've ever emphasized?
It actually has been specifically something that we talked with him early on in the season about. You know, he's coming from the Big 12 conference. He's coming from a conference where if he gets to the lane, it's probably
some big
not,
guys in there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and that's just the level that he's been used to playing at. And now the game here is very high level as well, but it's officiated a little different, and there are more open opportunities at the rim for him to score. And he's done a good job. I mean, he's averaging in the double figures, and he is the most efficient guard we've ever had up to this point, if he can keep it up.
And you've said that he's kind of that sixth starter, so to speak, because he's coming off the bench. He's playing 25, 30 minutes a game. And again, it kind of goes back to that depth. But he can be a guy you can trust in those late game situations. He's so imperative to what you guys can do, and that's a luxury to have.
Yeah, I mean, really, what happened the other night with the Southern Illinois, you know, I think it's good for him and good for our team because he's the hardest worker, and he's the guy who leads by example every day. In one of our preseason games, he was a go-to guy late that really helped us a lot, and that was really hard on him, but you have to go through situations like that to grow as a team because we haven't had close games this year. You know, we had the one blowout loss. It was close for about 35 minutes, but it wasn't close towards the end. And then the 8 other wins we've had really have not been close basketball games. So that's the one pressure situation that we've been in. And for it to go down like that, and then for me to see how he and the team have responded, have been really encouraging. That was a tough one-day turnaround we had because that was a devastating loss the way it happened. The other team had a week off to prepare, and we had one day. And I thought our guys responded in a way that I'm really encouraged by what I saw. You know, you're going to have moments like that through the season, and you don't know what you have until stuff like that happens. You want to see if guys are going to splinter, or are they going to come together? Are they going to try to be better, or are they going to start pointing fingers? You know, and it was all good stuff following that. So that's what I'm mostly positive about from the start of the season.
And that's a really good point as well, because when you guys go on the road come conference play, you're playing at Longwood, you're playing at Asheville. I mean, you and I both know that those are seldom 20-point wins. Those are always going to be, you know, knife fights toward the very end. It's going to be a 2-1 possession ball game. And testing the metal a little bit early in the non-conference, I think, could be a big factor come conference play.
Absolutely. I mean, I was sitting there before that game, and I'm getting a little worried as a coach, like, I don't know what we're going to look like in close games, but I'm not going to go out here and try to make it close. You know, can't do that, but I figured it would happen, and it happened that day, and it turned out to be kind of the most painful sort of ending. So you learn a ton from that, and you do grow from that. But I mean, I would also, it would be unfair to not give our guys some credit for dominating so many games. Like, they have dominated games against teams like, you know, you could take Incarnate Word, for example. Like, we beat them, the next game they beat McNeese. You know, like, these teams aren't just rolling over on
tournament
people.
team last year, McNeese.
Well, yeah, they're a very good team.
Yeah.
I mean, a top 75 net team this season, you know. So give our guys credit for doing what they're supposed to most of the time, you know. And then we've had a couple slip-ups that I've been very encouraged by their responses on.
What's that mental edge look like for you guys to be able to I don't know if it's coached into, that may be the wrong phrase, but to be able to not play to the level of your competition, not to slam any of those teams, but, you know, when you're taking on the teams in the Big South, when you're playing Southern Illinois and you're right with them, you're playing these challenging teams, they're continuing to play their level of basketball and their brand of basketball. What's that edge look like?
It's just a daily process of focusing on what you're doing as a team, rather than I try to not get overly focused with the other team. Some coaches, I think, go a little too far with that. Just focusing on our effort, our energy, how we are preparing will allow us to, regardless who's on the other side. You know, it should be the same thing if we're playing Duke or if we're playing the worst team in the country in terms of our effort. Now, I also understand human nature and how that works, and like, you might need to push a few more buttons to get a team up for a home game against a team that has a 0 wins versus going to play a team like that, you know, like a Duke or something. But that's my job as a coach, is to kind of try to feel that out and push those buttons. And I think these guys have done a really good job of just trying to focus on themselves. You know, when you have so many double-digit victories and dominant victories, I mean, that's a testament to guys showing up ready to play how they're supposed to.
One guy who's shown up consistently in and out every game has been Terry Anderson. And we talked during the first show, and you said he can be, oh, absolutely. He has been a force for you guys. You said he can be an all-conference type of player if he takes that next jump. He's taken that next jump in front of everybody's eyes here, and he's been so good for you guys. Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't a prediction of mine. Like, he was all-conference before he got here. And then I think, you know, last summer, he was arguably our best player in practice. Not this summer, but the previous summer. Right. And then he had the injury, and that put him behind the 8 ball. And then we're off to a good start for the season, and now he's in a sort of a backup role. Terry is the guy I go back furthest with on this team. I saw him at a JUCO jamboree. He's on a side court with the lower level teams, while everybody is supposed to be looking over here at these national JUCOs. I see this kid over there just playing so hard and every possession. And then, you know, as I got to know him throughout the recruiting process, I thought, this is a kid I need to have. And I missed on him at my first school, but. You know, when he went in the portal after he was at Lamar, the first thing he says is, "Coach, I want to go to the tournament, and I don't feel like we have an opportunity here." And he completely flipped his program there. When he got to that program, they had 0 Division I wins the season before. By the time he left, they had 19. And then he tells me what he wanted to do here. He had a ton of adversity throughout the year, but we all know how the story ended with him being, you know, arguably the most important piece in the end of that conference tournament. And he just deserves everything that's coming to him. You know, I'm hard on him a lot because I believe in him a lot, and I know that he needs to be the best version of himself for our team to be the best version it can be. And he's really leading by example right now, and his play is showing it. And he's been a starter of these last 5-6 games as well. It felt like after he got inserted into the starting lineup, even then, he was taking off even more. The minutes haven't changed too much, but I think his impact amongst the starting 5, you know, it can't be overstated. No, it can't. And, you know, when he started the season coming off the bench, it was really, again, like a Conrad-type situation where it's just like, okay, we've got a lot of good guys thinking about rotations. And then he just continued to show how important he was to this team. And that's when I thought, okay, we have to maximize what we're getting from him. We can't have him starting on the bench. That just didn't make sense at a certain point. And even him, you know, being so positive throughout that, like so many players would say, well, I'm doing so well, but you got me coming off the bench and have a negative attitude, and he never did. He just stayed ready for his opportunity for more, and when he got it, you know, he's ready to go. That's what makes him a special kid. That's why we love him. And the flip side of the coin, Scotty Washington goes to the bench. Offense is opening up for him. He's getting more looks as well. He's still got a great attitude when he's playing with the second unit, so to speak. But again, his minutes haven't changed much either. He's still got a terrific impact. Yeah, so Scotty is like one of those guys that I've talked about, and this is why we use the advanced analytics. You know, in his mind, he might think, well, I'm down from last season. You know, he's averaging whatever it is, 8-9 points a game, down from 15. His offensive rating and his efficiency is up from 105 to about a 130.
and he's not even shooting the ball at the level that he'll finish the season, because he is a career sort of 40% guy. He's worked his way up to, I believe, in the mid-30s now. He started off really cold, but as those threes continue to fall, and then where he's really made a jump, and it's the same thing with Rob, is on the defensive side. He brought a ton of energy last game defensively, just guarding the ball. He looks like a completely different person than he did last year on the defensive end. So, I complained a little bit about our defense, and I want to improve some things, but those guys playing hard on that end, Scotty, Rob is a big plus.
The anchor of the defense, of course, is Owen Aquino. Not only is he manning the paint, he's paroling the back line, so to speak, but he's also the communicator. And really, the improvements in the defense, I'm sure, start with Aquino.
They really do. And after that SIU loss, him being the leader that he is. He didn't have a good game defensively that day. There was some just clear breakdowns of what we were supposed to do and a lack of mental focus. And his response to me was, "Coach me harder. I need to be held to a higher standard." And that's what leaders do. They point the fingers at themselves. And what he did the next game is come out and led. He had a plus 27 in the plus minus. Nobody else, I think, was over 20. So he would just totally led us in all ways. If you look back to the dominating win against Furman, that was him on the defensive end as well. So Owen is a great kid. He was selected as captain for a reason, but he's still a human being too, and he's going to have some days where he doesn't have it. And we're going to try to minimize those days. But when he's good defensively, we're good defensively.
And he changes just the calculus of everything when he's out there. Obviously, the communicator, that's kind of not the X's and O's, but when it gets down to the X's and O's, it feels like his impact is just immeasurable in that, because he can switch on to littler guys if he needs to. He can play down low. He can bang, big, strong guy. And it feels like his impact in that regard is just so massive.
Yeah, the style that we're playing requires a ton of talking, a ton of communication, a ton of thought. It's not, you can't just be out there playing hard. You kind of got to know what's going on and know where I'm supposed to be at all times. So not all 5 guys are always going to be as good as each other at that. So you need a couple guys who really see everything, who can kind of point, hey, that, and he's definitely one of those leaders in that area.
Braden Hawson so far this year, he shot a lot of threes. He's been pretty solid from the outside as well. He's kind of an unsung hero. When he comes off the bench, he kind of plays the same role as Chase Johnston in a way, active defensive hands, communicating, can shoot the three-pointer really well. What's impressed you about him?
The shooting stands out because that's pretty, and he's obviously a great shooter. But what people probably don't see is how much better our defense has been with him on the floor, and that goes back to him talking, being in the stance, ready to rotate. He's not the most athletically gifted guy on our team, and he would tell you that. But because he's ready to play and ready to play hard, his on-off numbers defensively are truly staggering with how much better it gets with him on the floor. So I'm kind of really at a point where I'm challenging some other guys to pick up some of his habits. And so, look, he was a guy who was probably on the outside looking in of minutes, and that was expressed to him this offseason. And he says, "Coach, that's okay, but I'm gonna show you." And I've had a lot of guys say that, but not a lot of guys actually live doing the extra work every day. I gave him some specific things that he would have to really improve on to get an opportunity, and he's done them. And so he's just made himself part of our rotation through hard work and production. So I'm really proud of him.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like you said, a lot of people can say it, but even fewer can do it. And so I think that kind of speaks to the character that he has. He's just a sophomore as well. He has a very high ceiling, I think, here with HPU.
Absolutely. He's just going to continue to get better if he can keep this edge. What I told him after last game is it's really harder to deal with success than it is to deal with failure, I believe, especially when you're a young person, because it's the first time and you think, well, this is going good and it's just going to keep going, and they haven't felt that sort of up and down when you let your foot off the gas. So my challenge to him is just keep it up, and if he'll just keep it up, then sky's the limit for him.
We've touched on the depth a little bit. You guys have some great big man depth with Josh Ibukalanua. Yosef Sungari has played some as well. And it feels like the luxury that you guys have is that you can mix and match based on the matchup. You can play Yosef, you can play Josh, and that can pay dividends based on kind of the matchup that you guys like.
That is a luxury, and actually you're dead spot on with that. There are some certain defenses that are good for a Josh-type player, certain ones that are good for a Yusuf-type player, and Caden. Caden's been arguably as good as both of them. There's some competition going on in that area, but then there's also game-to-game who fits best. So we have some good options there. Those guys are practicing hard against each other every day. And as of right now, it's kind of game to game who fits best for those minutes.
You guys have played some road or neutral site games as well. You played in the Boardwalk Battle, went 2-0 in that contest. You've got a game with App State coming up in a neutral site location. What have those road/neutral site games kind of meant to your team? That way, when conference play rolls around and you got true road crowds, you guys are ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's big. I mean, we don't play as many road games as most Big South schools, so we want to make sure we're at least playing some neutral games so that we're ready for a conference tournament environment. We love playing in the Cubane Center. We are, I think since I was able to arrive here 2 years ago, I believe we're 37-4 in there. So we like playing in there. But you know, like you hit the nail on the head. You got to go out and play some good schools in a neutral floor to kind of get yourself ready for March. You know, and this App State game they're promoting it well, and it's kind of like a neutral home and home, so to speak. You know, we had the neutral game in Greensboro last year. Now we have the neutral game in Hickory, a little closer to them. So. You know, as many fans as we can get down there will be huge because we definitely had the edge last year here in Greensboro, and we needed every bit of it. Oh, yeah. If you remember that game, and the fans were
rock fight for a half and then pulling away a little bit.
Yeah.
What does App State show you this year? I mean, every team changes from year to year, but how have you guys begun preparing for App State? I know the focus is on you guys, but what have you seen from App State so far?
Yeah, as a team, we haven't, like our players, we haven't focused on App State at all. We're with this little break so far, we focused just on us. But obviously, as a staff, we tune in, we watch, we know a lot about them. You know, they've had a rough start for their standards. But Coach Kearns is a great coach, and we saw that last year. He can really coach his team to be really tough to beat. And with the kind of struggle they've had to start this season, I expect him to make some adjustments and be ready to go, that all his teams do. They'll be physical. They'll be tough. One thing that they do well is they don't turn the ball over well, which is something that we try to do, so that'll be something to watch that game. They do keep the ball, you know, and get a shot most of the time. So I expect them to be fired up. They're definitely going to be fired up for this game, and that's something that this group of a lot of new guys is experiencing, and they might not really know why some of these other schools are so fired up to play them because they haven't been a part of this success the last couple of years. But you know, we go into games like, you know, a couple of years ago we arrived here. App State is if we're playing App State, we're the underdog. Now that's flipped.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we're the team that these mid majors in the state are trying to beat, and it's a celebration for them. So we got to be ready for a tough environment, and we got to be ready to fight through some adversity down there and come together in what will be a difficult environment.
I know it's always one game at a time. Mary Baldwin is after that, and that's a non-Division I opponent, but that's an opportunity where you can experiment with a couple things. We've talked about that with prior non-D1 schools. Maybe expand the rotation a little bit if all things go according to plan, and then again, you can tinker with things every now and again.
I would say that's the hope in every game is that we can have, you know, but, you know, it goes back to the point. We treat Mary Baldwin the same as we treat App State in terms of our prep for it. So, you know, we'll be ready to play them. And, you know, schools have lost to non-Division I schools this year.
Boise State lost to Hawaii Pacific.
It happens. It happens. So we treat it just like every other opponent. You know, we respect them and we get ready to play them.
Undoubtedly. Questions for Coach? How's Vincent Brady?
He's good. He's good to go. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about it, but he's ready to play.
Recruiting. I don't know when the recruiting period. I think the recruiting period's over. So you got some recruits. Can you talk about them and are they signed? And yada yada yada.
Yeah, so we've signed two guys. I can talk about the guys we've signed. Trey Pearson, he's the highest-rated high school player ever in the conference. I think he's better than what he's even rated, but you know, he was a starting point guard on back-to-back EYBL championship teams. For people who don't know, that is far and away the highest division of high school basketball. It's not really even close. You're talking about the vast majority of NBA draft picks are playing in the Nike EYBL, not on the Adidas circuit, not on the other ones, and those are good circuits. But to be a starting point guard and back-to-back champion at that level means you can play with and compete against and beat the best of the best of the best of the best. So we were really excited about Trey. He's a hard worker, a loyal kid. And then we've got Alex from Greece who came over to SoCal Academy. We've had another player from SoCal Academy. We have a coach on our staff from SoCal Academy. But he was the best prospect coming out of Greece for his age. And he's just a high character, hard working kid that we're excited about. In terms of the early signing period, that's it. You know, it's over for that. Now, how many spots you have obviously can come down to who's back, who's not. We're still waiting on some things with the NCAA. Like they could turn this thing to 5 in 5 years in mid-December. You know, if you remember our first year here, just right in the middle of the season, they decided that every transfer could play right away, and we're in December. Well, you could have recruited a completely different team in the summer if you would have known that, you know. But that this thing, there's still some up in the air about who's even going to be eligible next season. So it's hard to say exactly how many spots. So we feel comfortable with those two guys signed. That, you know, regardless of what rule changes are, those guys fit well as good freshmen for us next year.
Drawing fouls. I know Terry's been great at getting to the foul line. Perhaps we're not drawing as many fouls as in previous years. I don't know if that's true or not. Thoughts?
Drawing fouls, propensity for it?
So we've actually started to improve in that area. We were off to a really bad start at the start of the year with it. We've started to be a little more aggressive in our drives and drawing fouls. So our numbers on it are very similar to last season. Now our first season here, that was our whole offense, because we didn't really have a lot of other things to go on, and that was a problem come postseason, because the game gets more physical in the postseason and they call less. That's just what it is, you know. I mean, I think officials would try to tell you that's not true, but we made 21 free throws a game our first season, but in the postseason we made 11 per game, and we shot way less. You know, it's just a different officiated game. I think our way we're playing offense now is more suited towards winning in the postseason, because we can space it, we can make reads and react. But that was a point of focus early in the year, and we've been slowly creeping up in that area of getting to the free throw line more. Yep.
Any other questions for Coach? All right, Coach, congrats on the 8-2 start. Best of luck against App State.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Our thanks to Sweet Old Bills. That'll wrap up the Coaches Show for not only December, but 2025. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out today.